Disclaimer! The following episode contains spoilers for Invincible Season 1. Don't go crying to your mum if we spoil it for you. You've been warned. Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, J.K. Simmons is mad. We're talking about Invincible! Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name's Scott James Merridew, and this is the show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and I'm joined each week by a very special different guest. We've a returning very special different guest this week. Give it up, Capers, for Andy Clift! How you doing, Andy?
Hello there, I'm good, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. It's been a while. It's about 80 or so episodes since you were last on the show.
It's been a while.
God, oh, we were so innocent back then. So young, so full of life.
Yep, a lot has happened in that time.
So, we were last on the show talking about the excellent Captain Cosmic. What have you been up to in the meantime?
Ooh, well, mainly just more Captain Cosmic, really.
Mm-hmm.
And just working, really. Working on this, that, and the other. Got a few things on the drawing board, but other than that, just kind of keep ticking over, the same as everybody else at the moment. You know, that's pretty much.
Well, don't worry, Capers. There will be a link in the show notes for you to go and check out Andy's awesome stuff. But before we can go any further, we've got to do the news! Fair bit of news for you guys this week. First of all, casting news. Finn Wittrock of American Horror Story fame has now been cast as Guy Gardner in the upcoming HBO Max Green Lantern series. Oh my god, is the world ready for a Guy Gardner live-action show? No. Apparently, this Green Lantern show that I'm only just now finding out about will feature lots of different kind of Green Lanterns, including early Alan Scott Green Lantern, all the way to the aforementioned Guy Gardner. I personally am hoping for a Kyle Rayner Green Lantern because he's the best one! Oh, you disagree, Andy? I would like to hear who you think is the best.
Well, I'm an old school Hal Jordan kind of a guy. I do love Kyle Rayner. In fact, I'll be honest, this might incur some wrath, but the only one I don't really much care for is Guy Gardner.
Who does? He is no one's favourite.
Oh, he is. I have friends who are very much in the Guy Gardner camp. I've never got it. I've always been like I say, I'm more of a Hal Jordan kind of a guy, but I do enjoy Kyle Rayner, John Stewart, Alan Scott. You know,
John Stewart is great,
and the newer ones. You know, Simon Baz, Jessica Cruz. They're all great. Guy Gardner's the only one who I just kind of switch off with, really. So that was a surprise for me when I saw that.
Who should we give this ring of infinite power to? Perhaps a humanitarian, perhaps a warrior. No, let's give it to an angry ginger.
yeah. But I mean, I'm excited for the show. I love Green Lantern, so any new Green Lantern stuff's okay with me. But yeah, that was a surprise when they announced Guy Gardner, who's going to be apparently I've read a few articles that he's going to be the lead. It's going to revolve around. I don't know, but I'm just happy to get casting and that it's actually happening. That I'm happy about. But yes,
yeah. It is an odd choice. I mean, I can understand why they don't want to make it about Hal Jordan, because ever since Ryan Reynolds' outing, he's basically poison in terms of live action. Jon Stewart would be the next obvious choice, but he's sort of beloved to an extent that putting him in live action might be sort of a double-edged sword, because the comparisons will inevitably be made to the cartoon versions.
Well, they did though, didn't? I mean, Zack Snyder filmed. There's all those images coming out now, aren't there? That Zack Snyder filmed a scene with Jon Stewart as Green Lantern. It was going to take place instead of that scene at the end with Martian. Spoilers, obviously. There was a scene that was going to take place of. And he kind of said to the actor that Warner Brothers could cut it, which they did. But and all this images now coming out of this guy in a mocap suit and all this stuff. And some people are saying that they reckon it was cut because Jon Stewart's going to be in this show. But yeah, I'm surprised they didn't go with Jon Stewart as main lead. To be honest, that for me made more sense. But I'm not as exact. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I have no dog in the Green Lantern fight, so I don't really care. A dog I do have a fight in, though, is Miss Marvel, because we have just gotten new photos from the set of the upcoming Ms. Marvel show, featuring Iman Vellani in her Miss Marvel outfit, and it looks amazing!
It's amazing. It's absolutely spot on. Like, it's really accurate. It's amazing.
Imagine that. Marvel having a true-to-life costume in live action based on the comics that actually looks good. Imagine. Can you imagine?
Well, they've done it, haven't they? They've done it recently. We got it with the Disney shows at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, with trying not to be spoilerific, obviously. With certain characters, especially the Falcon in the latest show. He's got people are saying that I've seen it said anyway that Phase 4 seems to be the one where they're just like, let's go really accurate with costumes. I think Ms. Marvel looks amazing in those photos. It looks great.
I think half the reason for that is a lot of those costumes that you are alluding to are very recent costumes, very modern costumes. So they're sort of designed with a practical element to them in the comics. So that maybe makes it a bit easier for them to put into live action. Who knows? All I know is, I was already hyped for that show, and now I'm even more hyped. Something I'm slightly less hyped for is a recent bit of news broken to us from our good friends at the BBC. Tory puppets? What? I don't know what you're talking about. And no, so apparently it's been recently announced that there are plans by some people, in fact this sort of thing has been going for a little while, to digitally insert ads into already established films, product placement, and the like. Apparently, this is going to be a thing. The example that one journalist in one article used was like, imagine that bit with Steve McQueen when he's in The Great Escape, where he's hurtling down the landscape on that motorcycle. Maybe on the side of the barn, you've got in German, drink Coca-Cola sign. That's the kind of example they use. And it's understandably gotten people quite upset, because due to how digital effects can work nowadays, this is feasible. And we know how much companies love to put product placements into things, just shove it all in there. So this has gotten some people very understandably worried that this is going to happen, because it has happened. I mean, it's happened in television shows. Another example that was used in that article I'm referencing was there was a Chinese show that didn't have an ad in it, and then later on they put an ad in it, and it looks to be pretty goddamn seamless. Andy Capers is looking at me like, what the fuck is he on about? This is real, Andy. No. I am not joking.
I don't doubt that you're not joking, but I've not heard this, and I find that's shocking. So they're talking about putting ads in like classic films, like older films, not like, because if they were doing it in more recent things, I mean, I still think it's shocking, but you sort of slightly understand it. But putting it in more classic films, it just sort of that. Yeah, no, I'm not for that at all.
Well, because I mean, they use. I mean, Steve McQueen, for example, he's been used to sell products after his death. So was Audrey Hepburn. People like that. When it comes to the older stuff, the rights are sort of up in the air a little bit more, I guess. So it makes it easier for companies to put that in, and people are really not happy about it. But I am. You know, I am. I am ecstatic for it. I look forward to it, because you know why? This is just going to hasten the demise of the ad industry. $1 billion industry, and this is just going to be yet another nail in its coffin. And you know why, Andy? Because human beings, and this is just my perspective on it, but I think human beings are psychologically tuning out ads. Because ads are fucking everywhere. They are in our books. They are on the internet everywhere we look. They're in our video games. They're on our TV shows, our movies, the product placement. We can't turn our heads on the road slightly before seeing 50 billboards for fucking Burger King. And they're in our podcasts. They're on this podcast. They're in everywhere. And we are starting to stop pay attention. We sort of mentally drift away while the ads sort of wash over to us like a wave on the beach, and we are no longer taking them in. Best an ad could do is maybe make us aware of the product, but here's the thing, Andy. Do you know how most people make product purchase decisions these days? Reviews. Just reviews. If they want to see it, if they see a product they like, they look it up. Is that any good? Ooh, only 2 stars from Johnny Come Whatever from Middlesbrough. I'm not gonna get that. What about this other product? Ooh, like 1,000 5-star reviews from a bunch of people. That might be good. Ads are meaningless these days.
Yeah.
So let the ad companies shove Pepsi adverts into Gone with the Wind. Let them shove Ford ads into Casablanca. I don't care, because one day all these studios, these film studios and stuff are going to realize, holy shit, we are spending way too much on ads that we don't need to because people don't give a shit about ads. Do you know the only ad that people care about? Trailers.
That's
Film
true. That's true.
Video game trailers. TV
I mean,
trailers.
it does make sense that they've got to think about something else. I think what you're saying there is absolutely right about people are starting to tune out, but it's more than that, isn't it? It's the opportunity for us to see ads. We now have more control over it. So, like back in the day when you would just watch TV, there would be the ad breaks, and obviously, I mean, that like, we just had live TV, and then you would watch the ad breaks, or you'd go and get tea, or whatever. But they were there, and they were in the consciousness, so to speak. And then came kind of recorded TV, where you could just skip past them, which is obviously the way a lot of people watch live TV now. They just I'll record that on my TiVo box or whatever, and then they just skip past them. And then, of course, now with streaming services like Netflix and Amazon, they don't have adverts. Well, Amazon have adverts for their own shows, as does the BBC on iPlayer and things like that. But generally speaking, things like Netflix, Disney Plus, they don't have adverts. So there's no opportunity for these companies to sort of make a break into that because we just don't see it. YouTube, I mean, I have noticed a huge increase in YouTube adverts, like massive. I was watching an episode of a TV show called Edgeworld recently, and there was like, for an 11-minute, and I don't know how much they have control. I think it's just YouTube kind of put it on there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
the algorithm.
Yeah, and it was like within like an 11-minute episode or something, there was like 4 adverts in the middle, and it's just like things at the end. And this is a very widely viewed show, so like it would seem like that would generate more. Do you see what I mean? So like adverts just seems to be generating. Well, they have to
because they're so universal, because they're so ubiquitous. They're becoming, on a psychological level, part of the scenery for us. We're literally not seeing the ads for the trees at this point. And because of this, eventually companies are going to start to wise up. They're going to fire half their marketing departments, and we will see the ad men lining the streets begging for change, and I shall walk past them and spit on them before I go about my merry way. For don't you see, you have caused your own crash, you stupid bastards. You thought you could sell us things all day long? Oh yes, please, paper the walls of Tesco with ads for things we could just see if we turned our heads 45 degrees. You earned that paycheck until you suddenly don't. You're all going to die penniless. Ads will be the downfall of us all! On that note, here are some ads.
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
I've calmed down now. I just had to get that rant off of my chest because I've been thinking about this for a long while, and that article from the BBC just sort of pushed me over the edge.
Yeah,
But now,
I feel that. I can understand it.
but now we could talk about something that actually makes us happy. Fucking happy at last. Invincible.
Yes.
Did you read the comics?
I didn't just read them. I have every single issue and have done since the first issue dropped. Like I picked issue 1 fresh off the shelf when it came out, and I was with it till the end every month. So Invincible is a huge book for me. It was my first proper dip into true independent comics, because up until that point I'd like read some like the odd ones. So I'd read like some Spawn, things like that, and no, I like Spawn. So like
early Spawn though.
Yeah, but well, I mean, I've got a whole thing for Image, man. I love Image. I love that.
Image is pretty great now.
There's a whole movie, Image Revolution, about the formation. I absolutely love. I sort of really like. I'm really interested in that sort of period of time, in terms of history of comics, really. But Invincible was really my first independent book that I was just like, right, I'm on board for this, because I read the first issue and I was like, this is amazing, this is really good, and just sort of carried on, and like I say, all the way to the end. So yeah, I have very much read the comics. To answer your question.
Good, damn good. So, I mean, I have read the comics, but I haven't read all of them. I start with it for like problem is, once I start getting into something, I just binge. I binge, but just like issue after issue after issue, and that causes me to burn out. So I've read 100+ issues, and I'm just waiting to go back to it. And honestly, this show has reignited my passion for it, so I may very well return very soon. But I just wanted to start talking about this show because I think for the first trailer sort of it took a couple of people by surprise, at least, because it had been running through like the rumor mill that Invincible was going to be made into a show at some point because it was so popular. Yeah. And, Simon Pegg wore a t-shirt of Invincible at a couple of comic conventions. Yeah. So, that's going to do it.
Did he wear one in, the movie Paul? Like,
yeah.
That's that character. Like, there was one of them wore an Invincible t-shirt in that, and I was all like, oh!
Because, he's a geek and he likes it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was one of those things that for me was sort of on the periphery of my knowledge. Then I thought, okay, you know what? I've been burned by Spawn. I've been burned by Savage Dragon, but that's early Image. This is later Image. Maybe it got better. And fucking hell if it didn't just do that. Like okay, so
yeah,
I made my thoughts on early Image perfectly clear. It's pretentious, it's over-sexualized, it's weird and not in a fun way. Modern day Image is self-aware, sexually healthy, I would say, or at least sexually aware, and also weird, but in a good way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I would agree with that about early Image as well. And when I read it, when I look at that sort of stuff, like I say, I'm more about like the whole history of it, about the seismic shift of what it did to the comics industry. Like, I think you're absolutely right about some of those early books. I mean, I do enjoy them for whole different reasons, like, and I like a lot of those books, but I think you're absolutely right about the modern day one. And I think Robert Kirkman had a lot to do with that. About kind of
because he's great.
Oh, he's amazing. Like, he's great. Like, he's absolutely. Which is really weird because I have read barely an issue of Walking Dead. Like, I've got
same.
I've got like volume 1 on my shelf over there. I've got like the odd comic here and there. And it was just, zombies have never really been my thing, and it was just not. I mean, like I said, what I read I liked, but again, TV show it's just not my thing. But
I stuck with the TV show for a good long while, but then I just got kind of not bored with it, but I realized, okay, this is interesting in the moment, but it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's understandable because it was a character-led drama. It was all about what these characters are up to in the moment. But I like a sense of forward progression, and I like to know, okay, this is a clear beginning, middle, and end. But the problem is, Walking Dead as a comic is so vast.
Yes.
I say problem. It's not really a problem. It's just my personal preference. I mean, I've problems with Robert Kirkman. I've read very little about him, comparatively speaking, but the stuff I have read is pretty good, with one exception. He did like this Jubilee miniseries, and that was fucking boring. He just goes to a school, and it's like, are you going to do stuff at it? Ooh, she tells off some bullies. Okay, is there anything else going on? Well, her aunt is like a criminal mastermind or something. Are we going to know anything about that? No! Is she going to use her powers? No!
I've not read much of his... no, I've not read that. But like I say, with Invincible, and I think one of the things that drew me to it immediately was the bright colours. Corey Walker's artwork in the first few, those early issues are just amazing, and they very much, when you read the first few issues of Invincible, and as with the TV show, you very much learn everything you need to know about the series. Because I just before the TV show started, I did a massive reread of Invincible. And I did it really, really like quickly. I just was tearing through them. And you learn so much of what you get from that book, from that whole series, is laid down so early on. And like, but even before Corey Walker left the book and was replaced by the Titan, Ryan Otley, who was on it till the end, pretty much. Just fantastic. But what I really loved about it was it basically... It was sort of like a commentary, and it was sort of analysing the superhero comic. So people kind of look at Watchmen, and I'm not saying that Invincible is Watchmen, but people say that Watchmen was like a deconstruction of the superhero, right? But I reckon Invincible was like a deconstruction of the superhero comic. You see what I mean? So like,
absolutely, yeah.
It took like the visuals and the themes. So you've got this superhero world, you've got these bright colours, these bright colourful characters, and established superheroes, and yada yada yada. And Kirkman really touched upon what made characters like Spider-Man really, really relatable. That whole thing of a kid growing up with going to homework and pressures from parents and all that sort of stuff. Having a job but then when he becomes the hero and he has the fights and all this other stuff, whereas most big two comics, especially like Spider-Man comics, growing up in the 90s and stuff, would be would shy away from showing the violence. Like they would say the violence is there, but like someone would get really hit off panel.
Biff, pow!
Yeah, it would always be shown slightly off panel. It would never be really graphic. Invincible just went, no, we're not going to let you look away. And then all of a sudden, you see the absolute brutality of a possible superhero world. Like,
Stop! He's already dead.
Yeah, you just like see it in your face, like, and you couldn't look away. And that carried on through, and I loved that. It was complete deconstruction of what we were used to, but in a very familiar way. It was just amazing.
I mean, I completely agree with you, because like for my money, Marvel has touched upon those sort of ideas. I say most recently. This was a little while ago. Most recently for me, because I've just started reading it in Dan Slott's She-Hulk run.
Right.
So, because, that sort of explored how this sort of world could possibly work. It was very much a deconstruction in terms of, but it was just in this one small aspect, the legal and judicial system. And I thought that was really clever.
Mm.
But Invincible, and I guess Image in general, was doing that way before.
Yeah,
because
they could.
Because this is a deconstruction of a superhero world, how it works, how everyone functions within it. But like I say, it doesn't shy away from the hard truths, the elements, but it never comes across as gratuitous or, that sort of Mark Miller-y sort of grossness.
It doesn't. It doesn't do it for like brutality for brutality's sake. It just sort of shows you those moments that you would normally have seen in like a Marvel or a DC book growing up, but where those books don't want to, they want to keep it open for more younger readers, so they don't get too graphic. They just sort of maybe suggest it, or if they do want to get that graphic, they put it out like an Elseworld book or something that is for kids, like for adults, and very much labeled for adults, which is absolutely understandable because, they're the big labels. They have to think about a wider readership and things like that. It's totally understandable. But because Invincible and Image are creator-owned, they are beholden only to themselves to a point, they got to show that. It was just literally, in Invincible, it was like where you would used to have the camera or the shots, so to speak, kind of view away from it. They don't. They
maybe a tooth or two flicks against a wall off panel.
Yeah. I absolutely loved it because you would just, you'd never get, you'd always get surprised by it. You would, even though you kind of got used to it as you read the book, more issues and stuff, and you see the brutalities and stuff like that, you still kind of go, I didn't need to see that. But you do.
Oh, his eyes are bulging like the Red Viper. No.
Oh god! And then moving on to the TV show, I think like Invincible, the comic is a deconstruction of the superhero comic. For me, it felt like the TV show was a deconstruction of the superhero cartoon. Because
it's very, the art style in of itself. I mean, it's mirroring the art style of the comic, but it feels very emblematic of those sorts of 90s animation, albeit much more smoother and much more refined.
Yeah. I mean, it very much felt more for me closer to like the more DC animated like original films like Justice League War and
don't mention that one.
And that was just the first one that came to mind. That whole sort of new style. And it kind of reminded me of that. And I almost feel, I mean, I know that Corey Walker worked as a character like designer on the show, and you can kind of see it, especially in like Debbie Grayson. She very much looks like his artwork. But I don't know whether it was like intentional to make it kind of look that kind of way, so that it looked almost kind of slightly DC, like superhero-esque, to kind of make people kind of think of it that way, so that then when the violence happens, it feels even more kind of like impact. But it felt like it.
I mean, it's definitely impactful, whether it was intentional or not. I mean, Jesus God.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, it was definitely like that, and it was amazing.
I mean, let's stop beating around the bush and let's just start talking about it. So, for those of you poor deluded fools who don't know what Invincible is about, it's about your average, ordinary teenager, Mark Grayson, who he knows that his father is a superhero Omni-Man.
I need photos of Spider-Man.
Wrong character, J.K. Simmons. No. It's Omni-Man, and Mark discovers, he's got superpowers too. And it's like, oh, finally. And so he decides to take on the moniker Invincible, which is an oxymoron in many ways, but I imagine that's intentional. Then a whole bunch of shit happens. I mean, it amazed me that it's only 8 episodes, because this is the thing. Invincible came into the Image universe, not late in the game, but later on in the game, and it's a fully developed world with lots of stuff going on. And Invincible is just one small pocket of it, but I was wondering, like, are they going to include references to Spawn and Savage Dragon and things like that in the show? And
I don't think they are, no, because those characters appear, well, not Spawn, but Savage Dragon definitely appears along with other Image characters in at the funeral for Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all in like the background and things like Super Patriot and characters like that.
Young Blood.
So they were. I think they are that during Invincible War, Young Blood do make an appearance. So there is some crossovers, and they weren't in the TV show. So I think they're just going to be keeping it to the Invincible characters from the the main Invincible books, because when those characters do cameo, they're never really.
Their background dressing.
Well, yeah. I mean, they do like talk and stuff, but they're not really that important to the story.
The one of the main other Image characters that got any sort of spotlight in Invincible was Tech Jacket. So,
he was Kirkman's character, wasn't he? Like Tech Jacket. Yeah. So Tech Jacket very much. And there was a crossover with Wolfman as well.
Oh yeah. Those were the 2 big ones. Yeah. But I think it's good that they didn't do that, because it means we've got a lot more focus over just 8 episodes. Yeah, they're like 40, 50 hour-long minutes, but still only 8 episodes.
Oh, it was amazing. They streamlined it, don't get me wrong, because they covered a lot of ground from the comics in those 8 episodes. And they definitely brought things forward. So the whole thing with Robot, with getting the body, the cloned body, that didn't happen until like issue 34 or something. Way after a lot of the events, but it felt right in the TV show. So they streamlined a lot of stuff from the comics, but it all worked. Like nothing that they changed in the TV show for me felt wrong. Like it felt like it was completely clear why they did it, and it absolutely worked. It was amazing. Actually, I was really blown away by how faithful yet slightly different it was.
Which is good. I like that they made changes. Now, we're not going to do too much comparing and contrasting. We'll try and limit that.
Yeah.
But there are changes that have been made. And I like it because Robert Kirkman is heavily invested in this show. And I think it's great when creators come in and change up their own stories. That's one of the reasons why I love Douglas Adams so much.
Mm.
And because he could have done things exactly the same and no one would have fought for him. But he said, no, we're going to change things up.
Yes.
You're now a lady. You're a different ethnicity, and we're just going to have to deal with that. And even the main character is now Asian American.
Which I absolutely loved. I was speaking to a few friends about this. That I loved that they cast Steve Yan. I hope I've said his name right. I'm terrible. Ewan. Because obviously he was in Walking Dead, wasn't he? As well,
yeah.
For a long time.
Who from Walking Dead isn't in this show? There's so many.
We'll get to that. But I think he did an absolutely incredible job as Invincible.
He's an amazing actor.
And then Sandra Oh. I mean, I love Sandra Oh. I am not ashamed to admit that I've been watching Grey's Anatomy since day one. I love that show so much, and she's a phenomenal actress, and she brought so much to Debbie. And she's, way more centralized in the TV show than she is in the comics. Not that we're comparing. And I just really
can do a little bit of comparison, but I don't want to obsess over every detail.
They sort of did. Because I mean, there's nothing in the comics that kind of like pulls away from the fact that they could be Asian American. So the fact that they sort of put that in there and it's not really spoken about, and that's just the way it
doesn't need to be.
Loved it. Absolutely, thought it was great.
Yeah, because all the characters, this is what I like about Robert Kirkman, is that he doesn't necessarily write characters gender neutral or ethnically neutral, but, if there's changes that can be made, he can do, because the characters stand on their own merits.
Yes.
And I think it's a great way of writing, because it's not gender blind, it's not ethnicity blind, but at the same time, it remembers that at the end of the day, these characters are human, and that's what should be focused on. At least in this kind of story, that's what should be focused on.
100%.
Except for the ones that aren't human, that are aliens, but we'll get to that. So, episode 1, we start off with John Hamm, of all people, as a security guard outside. Yeah. There was the White House, talking about his stepson, and this is a recurring character, BT Dubs. John Hamm as a stepdad who's got a contentious relationship with his stepson, recurring character, which I love. Yeah. My God, the cast in this is awesome.
Yeah.
We've only even hit the iceberg when suddenly, oh no, 2 jacked up Smurfs are attacking. Let's call the Avengers. I mean the Justice. I mean the Guardians of the Globe.
Yes.
I mean, they are clear, not parodies, but homages to certain.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. And that was clearly done on purpose. And yeah, I loved that. I loved that cameo from John Hamm. And I love the Mauler twins. Oh my God, the Mauler twins are one of the most perfect things about that show. Like, they're
Kevin
so
Michael
perfect.
Richardson for the win.
Yeah, they're just so perfect. It's unreal. Like, I loved it. Yeah, the Guardians of the Globe very much get more kind of fleshed out in this show, which is ironic because so many things get streamlined. But we get them slightly more fleshed out before their ultimate demise.
Because we have to establish these characters a bit more firmly in the show. Yeah. We have to have the big battle scene between them to show that these are the A-listers, top tier. These are the guys you call. But imagine if, in the first 10 minutes of an Avengers movie, all the Avengers just got wiped out.
Yeah.
Just imagine that.
Yeah,
it's that kind of show. Yeah. And I love shows like that because in shows like that, and also The Walking Dead, let's not forget, anything goes. It's a real Game of Thrones before plot armor became a problem vibe. And so they attack the White House, repelled by the Guardians of the Globe. Also, big hero, Omni-Man, a.k.a. Nolan Grayson, played by J.K. Simmons. I mean, has J.K. Simmons ever given a bad performance? He's been in plenty of shit films, but...
international treasure, that man.
Damn right. Damn right. And he's done voice roles before in things like Legend of Korra, and he's been, he's done so well in that. And I love about this is that, yes, because we know what's going to go on with Omni-Man because we read the comics, but to the your average punter watching the show, you might think, oh, it's J.K. Simmons. Oh, he's a superhero. Oh, he's got a lovely little mustache. He's going to be lovely. This is going to be great. Oh my God!
Do you know what? You almost quoted word for word a text message I received recently from a friend who just watched the first episode. Like, it was very much just like, oh, Omni-Man, lovely superhero origin story. Oh my God, what have you done? Yep.
Because oh God, because it's they leave it until right at the very end of the episode.
Yep.
That's what I love. This whole first episode is just pure setup. Let's establish the world, establish the characters, establish the status quo, and then let's fuck that status quo forever.
And that's exactly the way it should have been as well, because that's exactly what it is. Because you're absolutely right. The vast majority of the people who jumped on the comics when it came out or whenever, they were familiar with the characters that the Guardians of the Globe were based on. So they immediately looked at it and go, oh, she's kind of Wonder Woman, he's kind of Superman, he's kind of Green. She's kind of Green Lantern. That's clear, blah blah blah. So they kind of understood the references. Okay, we get who these people are meant to be. But like you say, a lot of people that are going to watch the TV show aren't going to necessarily have that connection. So they need to have them established.
The show also tricks you because it shows them interacting with their loved ones, and if they're acting like, oh my God, darling, aren't we so happy? Oh yes, sweetie, we're so happy. I'm sure glad that you're not dead. Imagine if you died. That would be awful. They don't do that. They see them just being normal and, just talking with them, even arguing and having, a bit of contention, because these are real people with real lives that are suddenly and inexplicably about to end at the hands of goddamn Tenzin from Legend of Korra. It's a big deal, but we're getting ahead of us slightly. So Omni-Man, aka Nolan Grayson's son, Mark, is waiting for his powers to emerge, but he's, going to school with his best friend, William, played by Andrew Rannells, who I was worried they were going to sort of include in the first episode and then cut a right off. But characters drip in and out of the show at not random intervals, but certain intervals. So if you see one character gone for a little while, don't worry, they can turn up later on. Definitely. And also, if I'm remembering the comics correctly, William is revealed to be gay later on, whereas in the show, he's already out at the beginning of the show, which I like.
And that made sense because, it was a big character arc for William in the comics, because in the comics he dated Atom Eve and it went wrong, and it kind of gets explained why that is, because obviously he's gay and he comes out and he's like, no, this is who I am. And it was it was a great moment in the comics, and it made it paid service to the character and the character journey, but it absolutely made sense because they don't have enough time to kind of, if William was front and center as a main character, then I'm sure they would have they would have gone that way, but he's a support character who's not, he's not a superhero. So they just sort of, they started off that way. Cool. Yeah. Fine.
Well, you get a couple of character development moments later on in the episode, in the show, but right now you're just the best friend. Okay. Deal with it. Exactly. We also see a little bit of a high school drama, and of course the introduction of Atom Eve, voiced by, I can't remember how to pronounce her name. Gillian?
It's Gillian Jacobs, isn't it?
Gillian Jacobs, yeah. And it's so weird to see her pop up in things other than Community. I know she's an actor that's done plenty of other things, but I mainly know her from Community. And she's called Atom Eve she's one of my favorite characters in the whole comic, just because she is one of those superheroes that I love that dares to think outside of the box, because she doesn't just want to punch people. She could, and that's fine, but she wants to try and use her powers to help people in different ways. And it's just like, how come she's the only, well, at least the first superhero that I can think of that's chosen to use her powers in this way? She doesn't mean think, I need to punch people.
No, she's great. I love Atom Eve in both the comics and the show. I think she's great.
It's really, really good. And then we also other important character we meet is Art Rosenbaum, voiced by Mark Hamill.
Yes.
We could just do a whole episode just talking about the cast, but we'll try. We can't talk about all the cast. No. He's so cool, and we finally get the Invincible costume. Yeah. We don't have to go into any great detail about it, except for the fact that the yellow bits kind of looked like an eye.
Yeah. I love that they kept that. I love that it's perfect. No redesign needed. Taken straight from the comic. Perfect.
It's got the goggly bits. I love it.
Yeah. The silly knee pads. Brilliant.
And What I love about this is that this whole show, indeed the comic in general, is basically one long extended origin story. It's a superhero Bildungsroman almost. Just it's all about this one kid learning not just how to be a superhero, but how to be a person.
Yes.
And the development never stops. That the first 30-odd issue character arc, that's not the end, and then it's just like, ooh, status quo. No, he's constantly learning and constantly evolving throughout the show as well.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so investing, because it's much like The Walking Dead. It is character-driven as well as plot-driven, which The Walking Dead doesn't really have going for it. And we see him do the traditional superhero stuff. Takes on a bunch of robbers, including Golem, played by, was it Mahershala Ali?
Titan.
No, sorry. I keep on calling him Golem because I think that's a better name, but it's called Titan.
Yeah, it's called Titan. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, actually. Because when you said that, I was a bit like, that's not his name, but that would work.
It would work. Titan, I mean, that's just lazy, man. Yeah. You can come up with something better. You're stone, you're like a thing. I don't think there's any other superheroes called Golem. Go for it. Jesus. Anyway.
Well, again, obviously not trying to focus too much on the cast, but what an actor to bring in to play that character. Like...
He's going to be Blade as well.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
I mean, let's just rattle off some of the standouts for the cast before we go any further. So we've got Steve Yeun as Invincible, Sandra Oh that we mentioned, J.K. Simmons we mentioned, Zachary Quinto as Robot,
which was
Gillian Jacobs. Oh, God. A weird character casting, but actually kind of works in an odd way. Jason Mantzoukas as Rexplode.
Oh my God, that was just unreal. Like, that was so good. Like, I mean, when you read the books, Rexplode is such an a-hole all the way through. Oh, yeah. And he just exudes that in the show. It's just unreal. It's so perfect.
It's a great character because you're wondering, is he kind of like, what was his character from Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Derek.
Oh yeah.
No, that was The Good Place.
Yeah, he was Daryl in The Good Place. He was. Oh, I can't remember. I only watched an episode of it earlier. What was his? I can't remember the character's name, but yeah, brilliant. Yeah. But
he brings that energy, but he doesn't be the same kind of character. So he's actually really great. Grey Griffin is in this. She's awesome in everything. Yeah. Carrie motherfucking Payton is in this as Black Samson. Love him.
Yeah.
And we mentioned The Walking Dead actors earlier. They play the Guardians of the Globe. So Lauren Cohan is War Woman.
Yeah.
Sonequa Martin Green is Green Ghost. Chad Coleman is Martian Man. Michael Cudlitz is Red Rush, doing his best Russian accent. Good on you, man. Lenny James is Darkwing. And Ross Marquand, who voices a couple of other characters, is the Immortal.
Yep.
He's also Aquarius, the fish man. Oh, Aquaman jokes never get old. He just sits in his underwater kingdom waiting for the Guardians to call.
There's some lovely splash pages from the books where he's just sort of sitting there on his throne, just waiting for stuff to happen and just being bored. It's amazing.
We've got Walter Goggins as Cecil Steadman. One character actor that I'm not going to reference until later that I'm really excited about. Mahershala Ali that we mentioned. Michael Dorn as Battle Beast. Ezra You Should Be in Jail Miller as another character. Don't know a big fan of him.
D.A. Sinclair, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's effective casting to cast an utter creepazoid as an utter creepazoid, but that's just my opinion. Jeffrey Donovan as Machine Head. Fred Tatasciore as Kill Cannon, Andrew Rand, as we mentioned earlier. Zazie Beetz as Amber Bennett. Hell yeah, Domino's in this mother.
Yeah, no, and that was another one as well, which I think has been a character that has been because she plays Amber, doesn't she? And that is a character I think that has been enhanced from the comic. She's slightly different in the comic. She's a little bit more reserved, a little bit more kind of cliche, kind of just girlfriend
side character-ish,
but in the TV show they've really beefed her up and made her more kind of assertive, more kind of like more interesting character, to be fair.
Infinitely so. Yeah. I mean, I think the best kind of shows are one where the side characters could have their own shows, and that's very much the case here. We mentioned Mark Hamill, as I mentioned earlier. A bunch of people like Clancy Brown, Nicole Byer, Mae Whitman, John Hamm, we mentioned earlier, Jonathan Groff, Jamon Honsu as a Martian Emperor. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Justin Roiland, fucking Rick and Morty is in this.
Yeah, he's in it, and that was good, yeah.
Oh, gee, Rick, we're in Invincible, man. Wait, no, that's Shaggy. I can't do Morty without doing, God damn it, Morty. Yeah. Who else? Oh, and we can't go any further without mentioning the OG Principal Reginald Vell Johnson.
It's a great cast. And they played well in the show as well. Like they were used well, and yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Who's the I'm only just wondering now. Who's the voice director for this show? Because this is really.
I don't know.
Because honestly, in my opinion, animated shows are made with voice directors. I mean, you look at people like Andrea Romano and people like her who do such a great job. I mean, that's top tier. If there was someone like her doing it, and it clearly shows because it never feels. I think you can have good acting, but it feels like a voice in a booth. You know, it doesn't quite.
Well, when I seen the background, the behind the scenes footage, I believe that a lot of them did record lines together. In the same,
that'll be why then.
Which obviously they did a lot on, like with Andrea Romero on Batman the Animated Series and stuff like that, which they kept everyone together. I mean, obviously in the current COVID time, I don't know whether they've been able to get everyone together at the same point. But I did see some footage of quite a few of them recording together at the same time, which I think for me it makes the performances a bit more organic because they're bouncing off each other. And acting and reacting, and I think it works
because you need that. You need to have a scene partner, and I mean, you don't have to have it. I suppose you can do it otherwise, but with a show like this, a character-driven show, you need that, and that means that the moments are so much more impactful. Like when Omni-Man, who's been rushing around saving the world and having sexy times with his wife, kills the fucking Guardians of the Globe with his bare fucking hands.
That whole thing encapsulates, I think, a giant split between the portrayal of Omni-Man in the comics and in the TV show. In the comic, you only see a single frame of it. Like you see, we see some sort of stuff like they're being kind of taken out by an unseen force, like in like a page or so, and then you just get a splash page of like Nolan standing over them, like just drenched in blood, and you're like, whoa! But you very much get the sense that they don't cause him any issues whatsoever. No. It just takes them out. Whereas in this, see the brutal fight. That whole bit with Red Rush where he's sort right at the beginning when he pushes, like he sees Nolan coming and he kind of pushes the person out of the way, and like it was just a very well choreographed fight, and they hold their own for a while, and the reason for this is because Robert Kirkman knows the difference between a static visual medium and a animated visual medium, something that the makers of Batman the Killing Joke apparently didn't know. We don't talk about that.
You don't, I do! I bring it up every chance I get!
We don't talk about that. But like I say, it did, and that kind of split, because in the books, Omni-Man was always shown as this absolutely unstoppable force, like he just inserted his will.
He gonna get it.
But in this, they give him a fight.
Oh yeah,
they nearly take him, and I really enjoyed that because that was unexpected. But obviously, in the end, they don't.
No. In the end, the Guardians of the Globe is dead and causes a big hole to do with Walton Goggins' character, Cecil. He's one of my... I love characters like Cecil and the MCU/Ultimate version of Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Because they're clearly clandestine, not to be trusted espionage spooks.
Yes.
But also they are, at the end of the day, trying to... Also, Varys the Spider, again, from Game of Thrones. Essentially, they are serving the country and they're trying to do the best they can with what they can. And you should not trust them, but that doesn't mean that they're evil.
No.
And I love that. This is. I was actually thinking about this the other day regarding Nick Fury, side tangent. Nick Fury from like the 616 original version, with the eye patch and the slip back hair and stuff like that. He was very much a shout, "Do things my way because I'm in charge." Rah, 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 rah.
Yeah.
And he was a fun character and all, but then you see like the ultimate version interact with Spider-Man, and again, you can't trust him, but at the same time, he's willing to talk to you, not down to you, not at you, talk to you. And that's part of what makes him so interesting and also so insidious. And that's also what they did with the MCU version, which I'm very glad of, because Samuel L. Jackson would eat that shit up.
Yep.
That's what Cecil is. He is
100%.
someone...
100%, yeah.
It's such a fascinating character to see this guy who normally would happily order a drone strike and not feel any bad about it, comfort a worried mum.
Yep, 100%.
And you can tell he means it. In the moment, he means it, because the situation has allowed him to mean it.
Yeah.
Who knows what tomorrow may bring.
You are absolutely right there. I would agree.
Yeah. But unfortunately, a lot of them don't have time to really worry about stuff because, there's a fucking alien interdimensional invasion going on.
And I, for one, welcome our new insect overlords.
Just coming out of the ball. This is one of the things I loved about the comic, just these recurring villains of these extra-dimensional beings trying to invade, but time runs differently in our world, so they keep aging. And then, Omni-Man gets trapped behind the portal.
Yep.
And
that's when I got mad.
Then we see him truly let loose.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was great. I love the Flaxians. They were absolutely amazing and perfect. As again, I'm sounding like a stuck record, but it absolutely was perfect with the kind of invasion and the numbers, the overwhelming numbers of it. And then with the new Guardians, obviously, of Robot, Duplicate. Sorry, you
were going to say Multiple for a second there, weren't you?
So Robot, Duplicate, Shrink Ray,
Monster Girl, Atom Eve.
Monster Girl. Oh my god! I could talk for like an hour about how awesome Monster Girl is. But anyway, and of course, Rexplode. And then they have this giant battle, and Invincible joins in, and it's just this overwhelming number of the aliens that they have to beat back, and they do, and then they keep coming back at them because the time runs differently, so they can go back to their home dimension and like work on it. But you say Omni-Man gets taken back into their dimension, and you see him cut loose on their world, and it's just.
This is another thing I love about the show is their use of music. So they use musical tracks and it gives it a very fresh, updated feel. But then you get this like angry driving music while he decimates their entire society and civilization in femtoseconds. And you realize, so the Guardians of the Galaxy were like the only people who could have possibly stopped him. And he killed them. Yeah. We're in big shit now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was really good. It was good. It was, really good. And like I say, I love that they went with the Flaxians because there's so much thrown at us in the early issues of the book. And even though this whole series, like I've said before, feels streamlined, they still packed so much in. They still pulled so much out of the books and just like put it in there. And it was just.
Because with his dad gone, then Mark has to sort of take over his dad's, sole defector of Earth duties for a while, which comes in the form of defending the Earth from my favourite character, Alan the motherfucking alien.
Oh my god, he's so goddamn cool!
Played by Seth Rogen!
He's so good. Alan, oh man, Alan's one of my favourite characters from the books, and when that's just, that whole bit's just ripped from the books. It's just perfect, and we get obviously Seth Rogen voicing Alan the alien, and he's
genius.
The whole thing.
The whole thing, the fight they have, eventually them just settling down and talking, and I love that. Not every situation is resolved by punching in this world. Sometimes they just sit down and talk, discuss things, hash things out. It's a very interesting and often naturalistic way of sorting things out. And even comedic. Oh, this is Earth? I thought it was Urath.
That's just such a great thing. It's just like, I'm here to test you as the protector of your planet. and you're really good, you guys from Ura. And he's like, what? This is Earth, dude.
And you say that's ripped straight from the comics. One thing that isn't, and I was surprised that they did this, but I'm glad that they did. One thing that was not ripped from the comics was there's this character called Damien Darkblood. And in the comics, he's investigating the Guardians of the Globe murders. Yes. And once it's finally resolved and it's revealed, it was Omni-Man, he comes and is like, I think I know who killed the Guardians of the Globe. It was Omni-Man. What? Yeah, we figured this out weeks ago. Where have you been?
Yeah.
Not so in the show.
No. I mean, Damien Darkblood in the books is very much just Rorschach with a demon face. I mean, he talks the same, wears the same clothes. He's just got a demon face. But in the show, we've got Clancy Brown, the magnificent Clancy Brown voicing him, and he has a lot more. He's a lot more kind of to the point, and he's a lot closer to uncovering it than he was in. Like, he's not so much of a side joke in this. He's very much got a purpose and serving a purpose, and he's like convincing Debbie that maybe Nolan's not on the up and up, and that's what plants the doubt in her mind, which is amazing.
Yeah, because he keeps just popping up like,
hello there.
and he helps progress the story forward.
Yes,
they could have gone with a cheap joke and it would have been fine, but they chose to make him have a purpose, and it works really, really well. Not just for him and not just for Debbie, but other characters as well, like Cecil. And it's really, really interesting. And there's so much going on. I mean, we could talk about the Mauler's side quest, helping Robot clone himself a new body. Yeah. We could talk about Atom Eve leaving Teen Team and the Guardians of the Globe and just going off to do her own thing. I want to... we could talk about the whole Mars thing. Mark going to Mars. Oh, God. Do you want to love it? Because... I said I wouldn't do too much comparing and contrasting, but in the comics, they constantly brought up these little things, and you never knew at least, how they were going to come back and make an impact on the plot. Sometimes in silly ways, other times in more serious ways, like the whole Martian thing. And that's what I love about the show is... if you're a newcomer, you have the same sort of effect. You don't know, oh my God, suddenly there's these parasites on Mars. What's going on there? But also, if you've already read the comics, you can think, so how are they going to implement this in the show? Because with Damien Darkblood, that means they could change anything. Yeah. Which means everyone can get something out of this show.
Yeah. I just really like the fact that I learned how to say that word. Like, I could never really pronounce... I mean, I'm really dyslexic. So when I read that for years, I just sort of recognised the word and didn't really quite get how to say it properly. But then when I watched a TV show, it's sequids. Sequids. Instead of squids. Yeah. It's kind of squid, isn't it? But they kind of changed it. It's sequids. And I was like, finally! That's how you kind of pronounce it. Is it sequids? Is it... I don't know. I really like it. But yeah, this whole idea of basically like a Starro-esque parasite that can kind of attach to people, but it can't with the Martians because they've got like their shape-shifting ability. I just love that whole Martian thing, man. Like, I thought it was amazing. Like him going to Mars and kind of, I'm on Mars. This is kind of cool, you know. And it was great.
I wish I brought a better lunch. Just this sandwich just floats away.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing, and it has been confirmed now that we are going to get further seasons of the show. Yes. But we didn't know that when we were watching.
No, season 2 and 3 have been confirmed, haven't they?
Yeah, so I'm so glad that we're going to get more Invincible. Other shows have already been cancelled that I would have really liked to see season 2s of, but I'm not bitter. Dark Crystal, why? I got a Dark Crystal poster back there in my room, but I'm not going to get a season 2 of Age of Resistance. Fuck this Netflix.
I still haven't gotten over Amazon cancelling the Tick.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And that was ages ago. I'm just not over it.
Oh, Jesus. Finally, Peter Serafinowicz had the role he was born to play.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, God. So, just trying to think where we can pick up from. Again, we could talk about Debbie, and I like how she plays so much more of a central role. Because before, I mean, she did get a lot of character development in the comics, but it was often most of it was the lion's share, at least, was after Nolan was revealed to be a murderer.
Yes. she was very much in the comics kind of the mum character, which served a purpose, but she was very much kind of not as integral to the superhero development side of the story. But in this, she's very much been pushed to the front and center because she kind of picks up Damien Darkblood's investigation when he's sort of taken care of. And she kind of really starts to doubt Nolan. She starts to realise that maybe there's a chance he did kill the Guardians of the Globe. And then they have that wonderful confrontation, I think it was episode 7, where she basically says, you know, you're a liar, you know, and calls him out. And, you know, like...
And because here's the thing, so much of Nolan's motivation throughout the show is kept, much like in the comics, a secret. So we don't know what exactly his feelings are for Debbie. Does he genuinely love her, or could he murder at any point? And it's so interesting because we see later on he threatens his friend Art, supposedly his best friend, and we already saw him murdering the Guardians of the Globe. And what else was happening? There was a point I was going to make, and I've suddenly forgotten it for some reason. No, it was this, because also we got this scene where Mark's having a real low moment, and his mum is just like, okay, you got to stop moping, and it's just like, and I think he's grounded at this point, and he's just like, oh, you think you could stop me? And she's like, does that make you feel powerful? Knowing that I can't physically stop you? And that scene, oh my God, I don't know if that was one of the scenes where they had Steve Yeun and Sandra Oh in the booth together, but oh my God, because, you know, people have, you know, questioned both comedically and seriously the Superman character in terms of how do you raise a child that can lift a car over his head. And we've seen that done in a funny way. We've seen that done in a serious way. There was that movie Brightburn and it's just like, how can you do that? And you know what? I believe Sandra Oh could do it.
I do. I read in an interview, I think it was yesterday, that Robert Kirkman said that, you know, Debbie was not the heart and soul of the comic, but Debbie is the heart and soul of the TV show, and that is all down to Sandra Oh and her performance and the way she sort of brings like the character to life. And I completely agree, like 100%. Like I loved that they developed her character more and made her, like, gave her a purpose, you know, pre-Omni-Man being revealed. Because, like you say, she very much gets more developed post Omni-Man in the books, but before then, in the first like how many issues is it? I've got them right here. Got them right here. There we go. In like the first like
like not even the trades, just like individual issues.
Not the singles, man. All of them. So yeah, like the first 10 or 11 issues, she's very much kind of like the mum. Just that's kind of it. But like I say, in the show, she's given her a purpose, and I think it's great. It works. It just works.
And Mark is not does not get any lesser character development either, for inclusion of new character development with other characters. So he teams up with not Golem, Titan, to take down this big criminal boss, Machine Head, which is his biggest low point when he gets fucking destroyed by Michael Dorn as a Thundercat.
Battle Beast! Battle Beast! Oh, we're going to see...
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Oh, we're going to see more of Battle Beast at 100%. That episode's great. There's this wonderful bit where Nolan says, kind of where they have a conversation about helping, and you know, Mark said to him, "I'm going to help him. I think he needs help, Titan. You know, he's a criminal, you know, but he's got a family, and I'm going to help him." And he's just like, "You are going to learn a very painful lesson."
The show tricks us into thinking, like, because I know what happens in the comics, but again, maybe it's just my own innate sense of naivete. But I thought, no, Mahershala Ali wouldn't ever turn out to be a real bad guy because he's got a family. I take one look at this guy and I think,
huzzah, a man of quality.
Nope, he is just as duplicitous as anyone else, and he takes over Machine Man's empire, and he's a bad guy, and his family is okay with it, apparently.
Yeah.
So, I love you, criminal big boss, bad daddy. Just
at that fight, though, I think that was the first one where Mark truly gets a beating. That he wasn't expecting, because he'd always gone into an area where he was either backed up with the team or Guardians of the Globe rather, and you know, he might get, but he kind of was a bit unsure of himself. You know, he was only just becoming a hero when he fought the Flaxians and stuff. But when he goes up against Machine Head and Battle Beast and those guys, he kind of goes in with Titan with this sort of arrogance of I'm you know, I can take all you guys. My dad's Omni-Man. I can do this, and he's just completely ill prepared with what's going to happen, and it's just
And this is all sort of foreshadowed with, oddly enough, the title cards.
Yes.
Because each title card gets bloodier and bloodier each time. They start with saying, hey, you're invincible. And then the title card comes up. And the first episode, it's all nice and clean, yellow and blue. It's all very good. Second episode, little bit of blood. Third episode, more blood on top of the already established blood. By the last episode, the whole thing's goddamn red. Like, we talked about Watchmen earlier. It reminds me of the clock in Watchmen, just like covered in blood.
Yeah.
And it shows just how much more violent and how much more agonizing this whole...
going to be. Yeah, there's going to be a lot. No, really good, and loved Battle Beast's cameo. Mike, when they announced Michael Dorn was going to be voicing Battle Beast, I was very much just like, well, yeah, obviously.
Finally, I get to voice a tough guy that doesn't get his ass beat every single episode.
No, that scene there, I think, very much kind of shows to people that Mark is not, as his name suggests, and he is not ready. And it kind of gives us the idea of, because we are obviously seeing what Nolan's doing. We know we don't know why he's doing it, but we see what he's doing. And that was kind of Mark's first test against people that are really not in Nolan's league. And Mark gets devastated. So you sort of kind of have this really nervous feel of, well, hold on a minute. If he can't even take these people, like, what's going to happen when kind of the inevitable happens? And, it kind of makes the viewer possibly really on edge, I think.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tension in the show, and a lot of it, oddly enough, is centered around Nolan, because you can tell that he can sense the net closing around him with each passing. The second he killed the Guardians, he crossed that point of no return, and he can feel like his son, his wife, his friends, even his enemies, sort of noticing what's going on there. And he knows, like, okay, time's running out, and I've got to focus all my attention on Mark and getting him ready to help, because it turns out he's a Viltrumite. What do Viltrumites do? Take over the world! And he seems resort to more and more drastic measures, because at the end of the day...
I've no more fucks to give, the more fucks I've tried to get. I'm over my fuck budget, and I'm now in fucking debt.
He's... I've got 1,000,001 clips. I don't give a fuck.
Do it, man. Do
it. It's so cool, because it's very much these two tangent storylines. Mark trying to be invincible, and Nolan trying to get him to be a Viltrumite. Yes. And it all comes to a head. I mean, there's, relationship breakups between him and Amber, and all sorts of strife going on with, Robot / Rudy and the Teen Titans. The reveal that he cloned Rexplode's body and put himself into his younger version.
Yeah, I mean, that's something else. It's all. I mean, that all revolves around Monster Girl, doesn't it? Because he spots that Monster Girl, is attracted to Rex, so he does that to sort of, for her basically, which he says as well.
Don't kink shame me.
But no, there's that whole business. Yeah, I was going to say something then.
I mean, let's not. It's a robot dude and a 20-something-year-old in a little girl's body. We can't go into it. That's an episode in and of itself.
That was one of my biggest. No, not that. But I was going to talk about the whole reveal of Rex and not Rex, sorry, Rudy, and who he is, not being a robot. Also, just want to say, Zachary Quinto as Robot. Good lord. Amazing.
He's a magnificent actor.
I mean, again, that was a reveal that kind of got revealed much later in the comics, and I think it works being brought forward to this point now.
Because the comics could take its time a bit more. We don't really have that luxury.
That kind of, without going into, because we don't even know whether they're going to go into it in the comics this way, but that started Robot or Rudy down a specific path, which led somewhere without going too spoilerific. But again, like you say, they could take their time and they built that up. And they've now brought it forward, and I think that's going to be interesting, because how's that going to play out in, how's Rudy's, reveal of, I'm actually a person, I'm not really a robot guy. Is that going to kind of, and also, working with the Mauler twins,
that kind of
possible duplicity there.
Three people who do not trust each other even slightly, having to work together.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the show. Was just that is just one of example of many of this great sense of momentum, a real sense of forward momentum, forward progression that culminates in the final 2 episodes where Nolan reveals himself to Mark. Yeah. They have to take down giant squid monster. I will not make another Watchmen reference. And the Immortal comes back. That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
I like how they just conveniently recap the Immortal's whole backstory in just like a few seconds in that montage.
It works. Yeah. It absolutely works. And yeah, that is the reveal, isn't it? When the Immortal comes back and like has a go at Nolan, and that's kind of where it is. There's no denying it anymore. Up until this point, everyone kind of, we think Nolan killed the Guardians. We don't know. There was no witnesses. It pretty much looks like it, but we don't know for certain. And then with the Immortal running around going, "Why did you kill us?" That's pretty much like, well, there you go then. That's what we need. That kind of nails it in, doesn't it?
Poor Cecil just trying to throw everything he has at Nolan.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
It does not.
That really works because, again, that builds it up in the viewer's mind that this is how strong this guy is. Because Cecil is throwing the whole resources of pretty much the world, not just America, but the world at him. And he's just like shrugging it off like the giant like sky beam laser. Gotta have a sky beam in you.
Bring out Stanley's box of wonders. We gotta do everything.
That was pretty much what it was. And him just like shrugging it off, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to throw that giant monster at him now." Nothing. And then that's when the Immortal comes flying in, starts trying to go, and he just brutally, just completely cuts him in half, like
right in front of Mark.
Right in front of Mark.
Son, I don't want you to freak out, but we're here to take over the world.
Yeah.
You in? No? And then we get the scene of a father beating the piss out of his son, killing countless innocent civilians along the way. That scene, like, I thought the Guardians of the Globe scene was tough. I thought the whole Flaxian scene was tough. But him holding his son out in front of a subway train as it crashes in and seeing a bunch of people just impact and splatter in front of his son's face while he's powerless to do anything about it. Yeah. And I'm just sitting here thinking...
the power of love is bullshit. Power of swords and violence. That's where the money is.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said, because Robert Kirkman wrote the last episode. And I think it goes into about how he understands the difference between a static media and a moving media. Because when you read the battle in the comic, it's very well choreographed by Ryan Otley, and it's brutal. It's all to serve. They touch upon all of the same locations. So, like in the comic, they do go down to a subway system, but again, it's just flown up. They do go into a city where a building falls on him, but then he kind of gets knocked out and they fly off again. And again, with the side of a mountain. But what's even more brutal in the TV, because I obviously, we all knew this was coming, but I was sitting there going, I've read this, I know what to expect. I was just in awe because it's so much more sadistic in the TV show.
You feel every punch. You hear every sickening crack of a bone.
Omni-Man's doing it for a purpose. In the comic, he's just kicking him around and causing destruction. In this, it's, I'm going to throw you through a building on purpose to make your impact kill all of these people. When I throw you through a city, I'm going to aim you at a whole road full of people so that you impact on all of them and you get covered in their blood. I'm going to show you how brittle this world is and how easy it is for us to destroy them. And then again, like with the subway scene, that was horrific. He just holds him there. He's like, I'm going to show you how pathetic they are. And he makes his own son essentially kill all of these people. And he's like, not only are they brittle, you are powerless to stop me, and I'm going to use you to do it. And it's just, he's 17. You know what I mean? Like, he's a 17-year-old kid, and it's just brutal. And when he throws him into the mountain and he punches the mountain, and he sort of looks up and he sees the snow, the avalanche hit all of those, because again, there is an avalanche in the comic, but you sort of see it in a smaller panel, see a few houses get destroyed, like really small at the bottom of the page.
Because they have to be economical. They have to, structure it in a certain way.
But it just makes Nolan's intentions be so much more horrific that it was just, I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I've read the books multiple times. I know the story, blah, 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 blah. But to see it, the way they depict it in that show was just like, nothing. I was not prepared for that.
The best action scenes between two main characters are ones that are framed like a conversation.
Yes,
it's communication. Because it's like exactly what you said. He's teaching him a lesson by throwing him into buildings, and you see, like, he's wondering, like, is the lesson setting in now? Because you are functionally immortal. You're going to outlive all of them, so it doesn't matter because, you need to get on my level, Mark. And Mark's no. And then he just starts wailing onto the side of a mountain. It's just like, what will you have after 500 years? And then Mark says, I'd have you, Dad.
Yeah.
Steve Yeun deserves I know, like, Minaru, his film got a bunch of Oscars, but Jesus, man, that man deserves all the awards.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And, like, he's suitably just completely devastated, like, physically and mentally. And you feel it as well, like, and also I don't know whether you agree or anyone else would agree with me, but that entire fight I don't think would have been as effective in live action with CGI, because we all remember the final fight between Superman and Zod at the end of Man of Steel, brutality and stuff. There's just something about two CGI'd, like, kind of photorealistic characters flying against each other that gets a bit messy for me. But seeing that in animation, getting that close and not having to go, well, he's CGI, it's obviously not real. Do you know what I mean? Like, not having that question of reality.
On a psychological level, we care less because we sort of like, okay, so it's the uncanny valley effect. With animation, you don't have that when it's not trying to be photorealistic, at least.
Yeah.
And then that last emotional moment really gets to Nolan, and he's like,
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Goes up, crying. I got a million of them.
Yeah.
And then we're just that's the thing. The day is won, but not because the heroes persevered and triumphed, because the bad guy gave up.
Yeah.
And more of him are coming. Mark is traumatized. His mum is traumatized. The world has no idea what to make of everything that's going on. He's brutalized. Everyone's just like, oh, God, what we go. And then we end perfectly. It's one of the most satisfying endings just to a first season of a show I've seen in ages, of Mark and Alan the alien on Mars talking about things, because Alan came back to warn him about the Viltrumites and stuff like that, because found out that Earth was flagged for Viltrumite takeover. Yep. And then we just get in the middle of the conversation, which Alan's just like, okay, so what are you going to do now? And then we get a big montage of all the unfinished plot threads so far of the Maulers, the Guardians of the Globe, Titan, all these other people that we've seen along the way, the Martians. And then it cuts back to Mark saying, finish high school.
Yeah, it was perfect. I mean, that was amazing, seeing all those little cut throughs. We see, like, what did we see that was really... we saw Conquest and the Viltrumites. It was a huge thing in the comics, seeing Conquest looking like Conquest as well. Like, it's not just some sort of, like, it's just perfect. So waiting for that to happen. And then seeing the was it Seismic? Dr. Seismic and the
underground mole people, lava people, sort of.
Yeah, you just saw all of that stuff. And you're like, oh, man. And obviously I'm looking at it going, oh, I remember that. Well, that's going to be amazing. Let's just go, yeah, and then, like you say, it cuts back to him. Finish high school. So in keeping with the tone, like, it's just perfect. That sort of, teenage sort of, it's going to be okay. And
yeah, so we're going to talk about our final thoughts about this show. But before we do that, here are some ads. Well, wasn't that fun? So, Invincible, what do we think? Okay?
I think it's pretty clear that I very much enjoyed it. I know I'm probably biased, but I did enjoy it. I think for me, it's one of the best adaptations from comic to moving image that I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it just is. It was perfect. It had the right tone. It made the right decisions in stripping away things to tell a good story. It improved on some things in the comics. Like they took the time to go back and go, that wasn't really explored in the comics. Let's make it more interesting. But also, it felt for me accessible. Like I've got friends, like I say, who've never read any of the comics, who've watched the show and they're like, it's amazing, and they get it, and they don't have to worry about, do I need to have read the comic to understand? Like it's accessible. It just, it's great, and I think it's for me it's a hit.
Yeah, it understands what the comic was trying to achieve, and it built on it.
Yes.
And it was inclusive, and it was aware, and it was flexible, but at the same time grounded. I love things that include shows that include fantastical elements, but are also so very naturalistic and relatable. And there's a reason why it's like 96% Rotten Tomatoes, whatever it's at now, because stories like this are meaningful. And this is what is so great about Image now. It's what's so great about Robert Kirkman now. And it's so great because I love the superhero genre. I love the direction it's going. And I love that we have now got to the point where we don't have to parody it anymore. We don't have to satirize necessarily. We can just be aware and reflective. This show is reflective, both in of itself, the medium in general, the genre in general, and its original source material. It's as good as it gets.
Yeah. And I also, one final thing, and it's probably completely unimportant. I don't know. I love the fact that on the title card that Ryan Otley gets equal billing with Kirkman and Cory Walker, because I know those two created the book, but Ryan Otley pretty much drew almost every issue from like issue 7, I think it was, or 8 towards the end, and with Cory Walker coming back and doing every so seeing the guy who technically wasn't a co-creator but put so much effort into it and so much is responsible for so much of that world getting equal billing in the TV show, for me, I thought it was immense. Great, because
you don't have to be present at conception to be part of the creative process.
Exactly.
And Capers, you've already seen this show, let's be honest, but if you haven't, go check it out. While you're doing that, please do check out Andy's stuff. Like I said, link in the show notes. And on that note, I think we're going to end the show. Thank you very much, Andy, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a blast. Thank you.
No worries. And if you enjoy the show, Capers, please tell your friends. Shout it from the rooftops! And if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes, like the last time Andy was on talking about Captain Cosmic. You can listen to the show on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, or at podcapers.com. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics or maybe come on the show yourself. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at APUHYC. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the lovely microphone, the red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast for a place to hang your cape. Cue the music!